What's up, chess player? Do you know why people love Bobby Fischer so much? Well, today I want to show you a perfect example of why that is the case. He played the game against Tigran Petrosian, another world chess champion. There are 4 queens on the board, truly amazing game, and I'm gonna walk you through it, and you're gonna learn so much. You're gonna be such a stronger chess player after this video, so let's get started. Hi guys, and welcome to Journey to Grandmaster, the place where you can improve every aspect of your chess game. So, the game started with e4, c6 is a Caro-Kann defense. Bobby Fischer plays as white against Tigran Petrosian. So, knight c3 and d5, knight f3, that is a very famous variation which Fischer really loved to play against the Caro-Kann defense, and to put it in his own words, he said that the idea is to stop the bishop f5, which is a very typical move in the Caro-Kann defense, because after takes, bishop f5, there is knight to g3, then h4. Nowadays they still play it, but he thought that it's not such a great variation for black. So that is the reason he did it, or maybe one of the reasons. Black played bishop g4, and Fischer immediately secures 2 bishops advantage. Although it's not that simple, because black also has some advantages here, and namely he controls the center. It's very stable, and it's so difficult to make use of this pair of bishops, especially this light squares bishop on f1. So what happens is here black is closing the center. The golden principle is if your opponent has a pair of bishops and you don't, obviously, then you should close the center, because those bishops would not be able to use those diagonals, like here, for example. If you open it up, if you take on e4, for example, here instead of d4, then you're helping your opponent. You're opening up the position so that he can use those bishops to just destroy you. So never do that. If you don't have a pair of bishops and your opponent does, try to close the center. If you have a pair of bishops, then your goal is, of course, to open up as many diagonals, as many files as possible, so that your bishops can use its power. So d4 has been played for that reason. Knights to b1, the bishops are going off the board, but we still have this bishop against the knight, and Fischer thought this position is better for him, and the bunch of Soviet grandmasters who are, of course, very well known for a huge positional understanding, thought that this position is better for black. And for example, Tal said that Fischer has completely misjudged the evaluation of this position, thinking that it's favorable for white. So let's see what happened here. c5, and it really seems like black is in total control here. There is no use in this bishop on g2. It's very difficult to open it up. And so objectively the position is around equal, but it's rather from a human perspective. It's not that clear how you make use of it. And it's clear that this pawn structure tells you that you should attack on this side. That is a very good hint for you to understand where you should play. If you see a pawn structure like that, you should try to continue this pawn chain. So like putting another pawn on f5, then on g5, and so on. But yeah, once again, it's not that simple to do. Let's see what happened. Black 0-4, anticipating this f4 move for white, decided, well, you want to attack my king here, so what should I do? I should do the long castles, and then there is no king to attack there. So a3, now white is trying to open up the queen side in order to attack there. So knight e8 has been played, b4, just sacrificing the pawn there, and then Fischer played knight c4. Although he himself didn't really like his move, knight to c4, he said taking on e5 was more precise, although according to the engine it's all the same. So knight c4, f6, the reason is now black is in time to protect this pawn, not allowing Fischer to open up this diagonal for the bishop. So that is a huge difference. If you would have taken on e5 immediately, then f6 wouldn't be an opportunity. That is why, from a human perspective, Fischer said that, yeah, that position was favorable for him. So takes, you don't want to take on b4, and Petrosian, as a great positional expert, of course didn't want to do that, because that would open up those files for the rooks. Well, if you take with a knight, there is also a7 pawn hanging, but even if you take with a bishop, you lose a lot of time. You help your opponent to create some initiative, and that is the opposite of what you want to do. So knight c7, knight went to a5, trying to create some weaknesses in black's camp. knight b5 takes. And only at this point, Fischer understood that actually his opponent outplayed him. Because look at this bishop on g2. It didn't manage to activate itself. It's completely closed. It's not doing anything at all. And this knight is a huge piece. It protects the a7 pawn. It helps, completely shuts down the whole attack of white. And also, it has some perspectives to attack himself. I mean, that knight is so much better than the bishop on g2. So remember, if you have bishop, you need to open up the position. But objectively, this position is still equal, so there is nothing so bad. But from a practical point of view, from a human perspective, Fischer understands, well, he has been outplayed, to put it in his own words. So rook f2 has been played, g6, h4. He's trying to open up some additional opportunities here. And after h5, here something completely unexpected for Bobby happened. His opponent, who is so well known for his prophylactical style of play, for his defensive resources, for his positional style, he's playing here queen takes b4, just grabbing this pawn, as we have discussed earlier. That would open up the files for white, and it also allows this move rook to f7 check. I mean, Fischer said, I was so amazed by this move. How could you give me so many attacking chances? That is counterintuitive. Nevertheless, Petrosian did it, trying to just win a pawn and say, well, your attack is not that dangerous. I'm going to play king b6. I'm going to have this extra pawn. It's going to be pushed, and then you're going to be busted. So let's see what happened here. Queen to f2. Just pinning this pawn on d4, just notice at how beautiful and strong that is. Now c4 is always an idea. Normally there is an en passant opportunity, and then, yeah, c4 is not an option. But if the pawn is pinned, then it's becoming impossible. And once you play c4, you're pushing this knight, you're opening up the file, you are creating some new opportunities. So a5 and now c4. Knight went to c3. Still, the knight is controlling the key b1 square, and the knight is pretty strong, so there is nothing really that bad for black. Although, if you have such a king on b6, of course, you normally have some fear of what's going to happen. Rook f1 has been played. That was a mistake, and Robert Fischer pointed that out in his notes. He said that queen f6 immediately would have been a much stronger move here, because that would give him a chance to go to g7 and then completely control the 7th rank, creating a great number of attacking chances for white. He played rook f1, and the difference is that allows the move queen to d6 here, as Bobby pointed out, because then f6 is covered, you don't have queen f6 anymore. And the engine, by the way, agrees that rook f1 is not such a great move. Nevertheless, a4 has been played, giving another chance to play queen to f6, and here already Bobby said that, well, this position is very promising for white. According to the engine, it all completely doesn't matter. It's still equal. I mean, that is truly amazing how you analyze this game with words, with annotations from the one and only Bobby Fischer, and then you check it with the computer, and the computer simply doesn't care about it. He doesn't care whether you are a great champion or a beginner. He just, yeah, he's a machine. But when you're playing a real game, where you're a human being, then it's all so complicated here. There are so different nuances. The skill in b6, there are so many different ways to attack it, and that feels very promising here. Rook takes h7, just winning the pawn here, because if you take on h7, I'm gonna take on d8 with a check, and then the rook is coming. I mean, that would be very, very strong. But here black makes a brilliant move. Try to pause the video for a second and try to find it. Okay, I hope you did it. The move is rook to d to f8. And the point is, now you really need to sacrifice the queen according to the engine. And I also thought about it when I was analyzing the game, because, yeah, you're getting so much here. It takes there, rook takes f6, now the g6 pawn is hanging. There are some chances against this queen, and yeah, it's still around equal, but I guess Bobby didn't want to do that because the position is too unbalanced now. Instead, he played the move queen to takes g6, which is also possible. And now queen takes, all of the rooks are going off the board, and we have those two passers. This pawn against this one. And of course, Petrosian made his bet on this pawn on a3, while white is going on with the h-pawn. And then the second queen appears on the board, h7, and there is no way to stop this pawn from promoting. So even though you have a full extra tempo with an extra queen on the board, there are no checks, so no way to use it. So queen d6 has been played, now h8 queen. We have 4 queens on the board. How amazing that is. And it seems like this king is much more insecure than this one. And so queen a7 has been played, trying to, deal with those holes, but actually that is at least an inaccuracy, if not a mistake, because up until now the position is totally equal, but this one is already better for white. It's around +1, and the right move is, you're never gonna find it, let's face the truth. Even, that is truly impossible. Only if you are using the engine, of course, you can say, I'm the best, I know the move, it's very simple here, but for me, it's so incredible. The right move here is g4. You have 2 queens. Seems like you need to try to create some threats. I don't know, maybe c5, queen b3, sacrifice, check, and so on. You play g4, and maybe you want to promote the third queen. How amazing would that be to have 5 queens on the board? So g4 has actually been played. That is how genius Bobby Fischer is. King went to c5, and now this king is actually escapes, and it's not that simple to create any threats against it. White played queen to f8 because, well, if you count the pawns, then suddenly you will realize that white has an extra pawn. So if you exchange one pair of queens, as incredible as that sounds, then you once again have a passer, which, yeah, is promising to go on. So queen to e7 has been played. By the way, a huge threat was queen takes e5 using the pin. And so queen e7, queen a to e7, queen to a8, now king to b4, and queen h2. And now white is trying to get from this side and just checkmate black. But king to b3, and you don't have any checks. That is truly amazing. Now white has played the move queen to a1 back at the time when the time was kind of over and you reach move 40. You could adjourn the game till the next day or till later time, and you have some time to analyze the position. Of course, you have no engine because it didn't exist back in the time, but you can move the pieces on the board, you can call out your friend and try to find the best continuation. But white, before doing that, should write his move on a note and give it to the arbiter. And the black, of course, didn't know what is the move. So in this position, black should calculate all of the moves, and white should calculate only the move he wrote down. But if it turns out that that move is not the best one, then you can't change it. So queen to a1 has been played here, and probably the best chance, as Fischer points out in his notes, is c5 here, sacrificing the pawn with an idea to give some checks here, queen g8, and then some long variations there. But the point is to open up this diagonal here. Queen a1, therefore, is also a move completely possible, but it allows queen a3, and now a pair of queens is going off the board. Now we still have an extra pawn for white, but black has enough activity to compensate that. Queen f7, king g2, king to b3, and now this queen is going here to e4. Fischer completely blundered this opportunity. The point is, of course, if you take, there is knight takes e4, fork. So you could see, it might seem very simple. 2 moves tactics. That is what we learn, that is what I teach in my videos, how to find those simple tactics. But even the greatest can miss it sometimes. But it's not such a big deal. It's still around equal. Thank God for Fischer. Queen to f2 has been played, and after queen to h1, Fischer offered a draw, even though it's now white's to move, and black took it because, black fought for a draw for such a long time, so it was so difficult to shift your mindset completely in order to play for win now, because it's only black who could play for win. It's plus 0.7 for black, but still, of course, a very complicated position. So both players were relieved with the result. I hope it was instructive for you, and at the same time, very amazing here. 4 queens on the board, and those strategical battles, positional ideas connected to the tactical shots. For me, it's something truly exceptional. Feel free to let me know in the comments what you think about this game. Like the video if it was useful for you, and If you enjoyed it, definitely take a look at this game, because that is arguably one of the best game has ever been played. Yeah, I'm shocked with that one. So I recommend you watch it, and see you next time.